So, hello everyone. First of all, it's really great to be here in Amsterdam, and it's my first time attending and speaking at React Amsterdam. So today I'm going to tell a story, and it's called An SVG's Tale, and it's about a little girl called SVG, and this little girl is some kind of despised by her family, and one day she meets this awesome boy called React, and after that they start working together, and the SVG just start being happier. But let me start by introducing who am I, and my name is Elizabeth. I'm actually a senior UX designer working right now in Dublin for a company called Optum, but I do much more than design. I also do development and a little bit of backend, but I'm not good at backend. So this is my background. I was born in Mozambique, in Climane. And when I was 2 years old, I moved to Lisbon. My father is Portuguese, my mother is from Mozambique. And after that, working too many years in Portugal and in Lisbon, I decided to move to Lisbon, to Dublin. And a lot of people asking me, why would I do that? If Lisbon sounds better? Yeah, the thing is, I'm actually thinking in moving back to Lisbon again. So let's see how it goes. So this story is actually split in different chapters. The first one, I'm going to introduce the SVG, and the second chapter is when the SVG meets React. Then I'm going to show you like 3 simple projects that you can actually do with React and SVG. The first one is a basic Modal slideshow, then the cassette tape, and finally the React Kawaii. So this is the SVG. She's a little girl, and she's a little bit sad. Why? Because she's despised by her family, and because she's different from the other images, different from the PNG, the GIF, and the JPEG. And why is the SVG different? First, this is the definition of the SVG by the Wikipedia. It's basically an XML-based vector image format for 2-dimensional graphics with support for interactivity and animation. But basically, an SVG is just a plain text file where you can see all of these tags and lines, curves, and all of these tags will tell how the image will look like in the browser. So basically, the good thing is that you can actually style the SVG with CSS and with JavaScript, and you can do that with PNGs and GIFs. So it's different, first of all, because it's scalable. So you can scale from a small size to a big size without losing quality or fidelity. Also, the file size, if you scale, the file size will always be the same. And compared with a PNG or a GIF or a JPEG, normally the SVG is smaller, the size. And the good thing is because it's modifiable. So with, you can style with CSS, and you can change with JavaScript and create like awesome animations. So this is my own definition of SVG, is an image with superpowers. So you can use an SVG as a background image and as an image, but if you use this way, you're not using all the superpowers. You're just basically using the scalable parts and the file size part, but you're missing the good part, that is the modifiable. So to use the modifiable, so you can style it and use JavaScript, you have to use it as an inline SVG. I never tried with the object, so I can tell much, but I recommend the inline SVG. So this is the part of the story when the little SVG, when she meets the React, and as you can see, she's actually sad. She's sad because she doesn't know that she has all the superpowers, and she thinks that she's like her family, but she thinks she's worse. But React is this guy, this awesome boy, always happy, and she tells, you know what, little SVG, you have all of these superpowers, and I can show you how to use your superpowers. So in the React world, we can actually use the superpowers of the SVG in 2 different ways. The first one is to import the SVG as a React component, and the second one is to transform the SVG into GSX. So in the first one, import as React components, it's actually very straightforward. As you can see in the image, if you use something like create React app, or if you use some kind of a Webpack loader, you just need to import React components as, in this case, logo. And then you just have the component right there. But you can actually see all the SVG tags, but if you inspect in the browser, they will be there. So the good thing of this, you don't need to convert into JSX. You won't have like HTTP requests because the code is in line. It's perfect for simple animations and to style with CSS. And also it's very good if you want to, after that, update the design. So imagine that you want to change something in the design, you just need to update the SVG file. So this is like an example of what you can do. Basically, you can have like the file, and then in this case, I'm using pop motion. As you can see, you have to target, in this case, I'm querying the ID, selecting the ID, and then you have to perform the animation by performing like these DOM animations, and I think it's a little bit difficult to do that. So I actually prefer this way of creating animations and to use the SVGs with React. And you can, first of all, you have to transform into JSX. And that's really easy. You have a lot of websites where you can just put there the code and it automatically change from the real SVG to JSX. The good thing is actually you won't have HTTP requests. It's very good if you want to do like code splitting. So you don't need to have one big file. You can split the SVG in multiple files. And this is also a very good thing. You can make use of the props, state, and all the event handlers. But then a bad thing is actually really complex if you want to update the design. So imagine that you have like an illustration, and days after the designer says, oh, we want to update this part of the design. Because you already split the design in different parts, you have to find that part and replace, and probably it's already JSX, and maybe there are different props, so it makes really hard if you want to update the design. But the question is, why should you transform an SVG into component? Why would you do that? So I found two use cases. The first one is if you want to animate the SVG, and the second one is if you want to make it customizable. So this is a very basic example of what you can do with SVGs in React. It's a very simple Modal slideshow. And in this example, I'm using React and React Pose. So this is what I wanted to achieve. It's very simple. So I have like a border left and this purple border right. And my idea was if I click in the arrows, I wanted to move the borders to the right and to the left. So the idea was that. So first thing that I did was I start by splitting and creating this structure. So this is the model. And inside the model, I will have like different elements, the border left, the border right, and the styles is basically, I'm using styled components for that. And then I have this function, handle animation, that is receiving like one parameter called direction. And with that, what I do is, after when you're going to click one of the arrows, I'm going to set the state of the animate border to true. And after some milliseconds, it's going to false. And I'm saving in the state direction that is going to be left or right. Basically, this is like another function, animate left, where I'm calling the handle animation. And then I'm just changing the slide. It's very simple. And then this is actually the JSX of the model. So inside I have like this, the component border left and border right. They are basically SVGs. And then I have the on-click in the arrows, where I perform the animation left and right. And I'm just passing all these props to the border left components. So basically I'm saying what is the direction, the duration, and if the animate border is true or false. So this is the SVG. As you can see, it's very simple. This is the path definition you will see after. And I'm using React pose to perform the animation. So this is the React pose. So I have an initial pose that is like a wave reset. And then when I click to the right or to the left, I'm passing that state left or right. So it's going to perform or the left animation or the right animation. And what the animation is basically doing is I'm going from the wave reset to the wave contracted, if it's the left. And if it's the right animation, I'm going from the wave reset to the wave expanded. And this is basically the path definitions. I just exported from Sketch. I don't know how to do this, like, I don't know all these numbers. So what I do is I use Sketch, and I created like the images, and then I exported the wave contracted, the wave reset, and the wave expanded. And this is like the final result. I'm using Code Sandbox for that. So if I click right, this is what happened. And if I click left, so as you can see, it's very simple, and I could have liked that slideshow to be like a very basic, but with just a little bit of SVG and animation, it ended up being much more awesome. And now the SVG, as you can see, is much more happier. You start believing, oh, maybe I have superpowers. Thank you, React, for that, for showing me that. And this is another project that I created like in 2016. This time I was living in Lisbon. I think no, I was not living in Lisbon. But when I was living in Lisbon, first I went to do an iOS course, and I had to do a final project. And my final project, because I really like hip hop. I used to be like a hip hop artist, but it didn't go well. So I ended up following a different path in my life. But I always liked hip hop and freestyle. So to do my final project, I said, yeah, I'm going to do like this iOS app, a cassette tape where I can press play, and I will listen to a hip hop loop, and then I can record my freestyle on top of it. It seems like a good idea, but once I start trying to do like with auto layout and Xcode, it became like a nightmare. And I couldn't achieve it properly. I did, the functionality was there, but the layout was awful. So years after, I found this design on my laptop, and I said, yeah, probably now, I was already living in Dublin, and I said, probably now I should try to do it again. And I started researching, and I found out that now the browsers actually support recording your voice in the browser. So I said, okay, I can try to do it again, and this time with technologies that I know. So let me try to do with JavaScript. So I did the first version just with jQuery, and the second version then with React. So this is what I did. I exported from Sketch this image, and as you can see, I have all the elements there, the play and the pause, because then I'm going to manipulate with React. And so first thing with SVG to optimize. And then this is actually the structure. So all the recorder things go here, and then I have all of these small elements inside the cassette folder. And then this is like a basic example when you convert the SVG to JSX. As you can see, it's very similar with the real SVG, but the only difference is like here, like instead of having font-family, we have this camel case font family. And the good thing is we can actually pass props and state and all of these things. This is an example in the cassette tape where I have the play and the record function. So basically here I'm just playing with the state. I'm checking if it's the cassette tape playing, in the playlist where is the current track, if it's recording or not. And then this is what it looked like to pass props to the children's components. So I have this cassette that is basically the wrapper, and then the center is where the wheels live. So to do the wheels animation, I need the is playing state and is recording. And then I have all these buttons, and for the buttons I'm passing like the play and these record functions, and the state if it's playing, if it's recording. And then this is the example of the center JSX. And in here, I'm just, to perform the animation, I'm just checking if the cassette is playing or is recording. And if it's playing, I start the wheel animation. If it's not playing, I stop the wheel animation. This is where the buttons live. I'm just giving the example of the play pause button. And I have like this on-click handler with the play function. And now let's see. What did I achieve? And I can actually record my voice. And normally this is the part where I do like a freestyle. But I can only do the freestyle in Portuguese. So let's see how it goes. Desculpa se acabaram de top. Eu acho que adormeci, acordei num zoológico, não é lógico. Quem busca fama, carro topo de gama. Em casa, nem cama, eu sou a dama beta improvisando mesmo à toa. Já sabem quando eu tenho esta cena fica à toa. Porque a dama beta improvisando e não há stress. Porque sabes quando eu entro nesta cena não convence. Sabem muito bem que eu fico mesmo assim sem stress. Improvisando sem barriga que ninguém convence. Porque assim improvisando sabes como é que é. O meu nome verdadeiro Elizabeth. Improvisando sabes bem com a minha fam. Como é que é people, isso é React Amsterdam. Improvisando, let's prop, vamos parar. É mesmo assim a dama beta está a improvisar. Sabem que eu não paro e quando eu entro nunca paro, stop. Quando eu pego nesta cassete aqui é hip hop. Porque eu vou fazendo a cena, sabem que não há mil. Sim, improvisando o sítio é tipo sex appeal. E vou continuando, sabes que não há stress. E Elizabeth Oliveira, sabes que aqui convence. E se não acredita, vamos lá fazer a cena. Cheguei a improvisar, agora eu paro com um poema. And that's it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So as you can see now, the little SVG is much more happier. Now he knows, whoa, I can even do hip hop. So it's like, wow. So the next project is actually called React Kawaii, and this is like an example. The two examples before was basically an example where you can grab an SVG and animate it. With this example, it's more like you can create components that you can actually customize. So I think probably 2 years ago, I created this library. I'm just a person that is too lazy, and because I always get these jobs that I'm actually doing design, and at the same time I'm doing front end, and then I end up not having time for anything. So every time I try to do an illustration for a project, I always try to do in the lazy way. That is really something simple, reusable, and that can I actually cover different scenarios. So one day I had this idea. I was thinking, what if I could have an illustration, like a bootstrap alert component, where I could just define the states, like if it's success, info, or warning. So I thought, maybe I can create animation with this. And that's when I started researching, and I really knew about the Kawaiis, but just doing the research, I said, yeah, probably the Kawaii is a good way of doing this type of illustration that covers different scenarios. So I thought, okay, it's perfect to transform into a component because I actually can just have like, put a cute face on top of anything and then it's a kawaii. So I can have like a planet with a cute face on it, a browser or an ice cream. And so I thought, okay, this is perfect to create like customizable illustrations. So first thing that I did, I grabbed like an SVG, I did it one sketch, and I exported, and then I converted to JSX. And then I start defining the face component. So I created like different states, sad, shocked, happy, all of these states. And then I exported from Sketch, and with SVG, I tried to optimize a little. If you could see, I have the paths here. It was actually Sara Vieira helping me in this part. So we moved all the paths definitions to a different file, so the face component can seem much more smaller. And as you can see, this is just different if statements. If the mood is blissful or love-struck or excited, I'm actually putting one part of the SVG. If it's sad, it's another part of the SVG. So it's just that. And then I have the Kawaii component, and the Kawaii component is basically the body. And inside the body is where the face lives. And the component, in this case, is the planet component. It receives different props, the size, the color, the mood. And if you can see, I have here these properties, width and height. And I'm just basically replacing with the size prop. So then if the user says the size is 300 pixel, it's going to replace here. And if it says the mood is sad, it's passed to the shielded component. And then in the end, you can have something like this, where you just say, okay, I want this planet with this color, and this size, and this mood. And this is actually how you can call the component. And you can do this for your own illustrations. And then I decided to move this library to NPM. And you can install it, it's just npm install, and that's it. And now let's see it. The part is just because I like to show off the page. I'm actually using the style guidist. It's really great to create these things. So this is basically the things that you can do. You have different moods, and you can pick the mood that you want, the color, the size. This is actually my favorite one, the backpack. It's the last acquisition, let's say. And now the backpack is sad because my talk is almost at the end. Oh, I also like the cat. It will be sad as well. It's a sad cat. So this is basically the library. As you can see now, the SVG and React are best friends forever because they finally realized, the SVG finally realized that she can do so many things, and she can create animations like the Modal or the cassette tape. She can have all of these customizable components like the React Kawaii. And you can do this too. Let's just try to create more components and things with SVGs that you can actually interact. And instead of having like a boring modal, we can have like a cool modal. So let's do that. So last year, this project won the Fun Side Project of the Year here in the React Amsterdam Open Source Awards. And it's really great because last year I couldn't attend to pick the prize, and here I am today, and I'm really happy. And I really want to say thank you for React Amsterdam for the invitation. And that's it. Let's make the web fun again. And that's the end of my talk, and I hope you like it. Just follow me on Twitter. Thank you.
Ooh.